Hello everyone and welcome to At Barrons. I'm Andy Serwer and welcome to our guest, Matthew Pine, CEO of Xylem, which is a water technology company. Matthew, welcome.
Thank you, good to be here.
So my first question is, what is a water technology company? What is it you all do?
That's a great question. Our purpose as a company is to build a more water secure world by empowering our customers and communities. I would say that water is the biggest resource out there today in terms of value that is probably underappreciated, right? It's informing public health, food security, it's informing energy industry and really economic prosperity. So the problem is a lot of the industry is really challenged right now because you've got extreme weather events, you've had underinvestment in infrastructure, you've got forever chemicals and things like that in the water. So the system is pretty stressed right now, but Xylem has a lot of solutions to solve those problems right now. That's what we're doing right now. We move water, we treat water, we measure water across really the water infrastructure, and that's municipal, industry, and in buildings across the country.
Now you were spun out of ITT,
Yes.
in 2011, and
Yes.
the name Xylem means it's the tissue in plants that transfers water in Greek.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what are some of the specific businesses and products that your company has, Matthew?
So like I said, we move water, we treat water, we measure water. So we have 4 segments and they're a proxy for different things. So our metrology business is a proxy for really clean water management. So we have a focus on clean water management, drinking water. We have another segment that's a focus on wastewater management, both moving it and treating it. We have a services business that helps treat both municipal water and industrial water, which is becoming a bigger issue with some of the water scarcity that's out there today.
I understand you've said that water is the Achilles heel of the AI economy. What do you mean by that?
Water's the Achilles heel of the AI economy. I can't remember when I said that. I probably did say it, but
or is it?
I think it is and it isn't. If you look back to the 1800s and the 1900s, we're in another new economy right now. So back in those new economies, those industrial revolutions, they used a lot of water. So if you look at textile mills, if you look at in the 1900s power, you look at pulp and paper and things like that, they used a lot of water. The new economy does not use as much water, but the problem is they're located in areas that are water stressed. So that's the real issue at hand.
Right, right. And so when you talk about that, you're talking about data centers primarily, right?
Yeah, data centers and also chip fabrication.
Right. How do they use water and why do they need it so much?
Well, you need for cooling for data centers, but really when you think about it, that's more the tip of the iceberg in terms of the challenge. If you think about a user that searches AI every day, a 30-minute session would use about 600 milliliters of water. So that's like a bottle of water. Data center is not the issue. The issue is more around chip fab and especially energy. Energy is about 3/4 of that bottle of water of search is due to energy.
Right.
And so that's the real issue at hand.
And you're hearing about, competition for electricity, for instance, with municipalities saying that these data centers and fab plants are taking all the juice out of the grid and our rates are going up. Are there the same pressures perhaps in water?
Yes, I think they're very isolated because chip fabs and data centers are more isolated in areas, and they're there because cheap land and cheap power, the first things in terms of data center. And believe it or not, with chip fab, they've got to be in special areas because they can't have extreme weather, they can't have a lot of vibration. They've got certain parameters that kind of put them in high water stress areas. So that's really the big challenge is where they sit.
Right. And tell us a little bit about climate change when you're talking about floods and droughts.
Right.
And how does that play into the thinking that you have when you're running the business?
Yeah, so talking to lots of our customers, I meet with lots of CEOs of water companies around the world, especially here in the US, and they're dealing with either extreme drought or they have too much water where they don't need it. And so that's creating a stress on their infrastructure. And so we can solve those problems. We can solve a lot of problems with digital technology. So we can come in with AI technology and machine learning and sensor the network and help them predict where the rain is going to happen in a district in a city and redirect flow, wastewater flow, into other areas so we can absorb all that rainwater. In many cases, the rainwater and the sewer are the same system.
So you're using AI these days when
Quite a
you're
bit.
on your monitoring systems. How are you implementing that specifically?
So that's a great example on the wastewater side. On the clean water side, through our metrology, our smart metering, we have sensors in the meter. So basically it turns the lights on rather, for our infrastructure, and it allows us to see the pressure in the system. And then what we do is we create a digital twin of that physical asset, and then we can use Copilot to help the operator run the system more efficiently and stop leaks. Leaks are probably one of the biggest issues we have. In the US or around the world, 20 to 30% of water that's produced for drinking leaks out of the pipes before it gets to the person's home or the business.
Yeah, I mean, that's remarkable. So that leaks and conservation are a big focal point of your company and the business, and that can really be impactful to that degree?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's, I talk about performance and purpose. We have an incredible purpose as a company, but we also have a great financial performance by solving those problems.
Right. And tell us about, Matthew, the competitive set when it comes to Xylem and who you compete with. There's not a whole bunch of companies exactly like yours, right?
No, there's not. And I think it gives us, like I was saying earlier, a little bit of a unique perspective because we play across the whole water value chain. So we can come into a customer and solve multiple pain points across a problem where others, they play discreetly in the water value chain. We see the entire water value chain. And the example I gave earlier around we can deploy a meter, we can also lay software on top of it and help them manage pressure. When they have leaks, we also we have a services business that can come out and do dewatering and help them dig up the pipe and fix it. We also have a business that can come out and put mechanical clamping on pipe. So we have lots of solutions, and it's a one-stop shop in a lot of cases for our customers solving their problems.
And when you talk about forever chemicals and pollution, is there still a strong business there, or are people sort of forgetting about that at this point?
Yeah, I think it's had a lot of attention. Actually, going back to the first Trump administration, there was a lot of work done on this actually in the EPA. And then in the Biden administration, they signed it into law. And with Lee Zeldin and EPA, they're back on it. And it's going to be implemented, but it got pushed out so a lot of the utility operators could get their house in order, if you will, to be able to capture the forever chemical. And then the biggest issue is sensing for it and destroying it. Because once you capture it, you have to be able to destroy it. And so there's really technology that's being developed out there today. We have an innovation labs part of our business that's working with a lot of startups to figure out how to destroy the forever chemicals so they're really forever gone.
Right. I mean, what exactly, maybe expound on that a little bit. How exactly would you guys play in that business, in that market?
And so we do a lot of treatment for municipalities. We own about 90% of what we call the treatment train. So when wastewater comes back to, or drinking water comes to a treatment plant, we own about 90% of the technologies that are in the plant to be able to treat that water. This would be another kind of a bolt-on to being able to add on to not only capturing the forever chemical, which we can today, but also then destroying it.
Right. And before the cameras were rolling, we were talking a little bit about a couple of French competitors, getting back to the competitor set, Suez, Veolia. Maybe there's some U.S. companies as well. How do they fit in with what you guys do?
Yeah, I would say they fit in pretty well. They're largely customers of ours in general. So they typically will operate the utility or a solid waste facility. And we go in and help provide technology to help them run their facilities more effectively.
How global are you guys, and what are the opportunities abroad versus here domestic?
We're very global. We're 60% in the Americas and 40% outside of the Americas. So this is a problem that permeates the world. It's not just in the US, it's in Europe, it's in Asia, it's in the Middle East. Wherever I go, talking to customers, they all have a lot of the same problems. And it's either, you talked about earlier, they have too much water or they don't have enough water. And probably one of the biggest pain points I see is they have so much information coming at them with applications in their business, they can't turn that data into insights. And so we have a unique platform that helps come over the top of all of their applications. And think about in home, there's the Amazon Alexa that goes on the countertop. That's in essence what we're doing. We're taking all these discrete applications like your lights, your audio system, your HVAC system in your house. It's the same thing with a utility. We're taking all these different applications, bringing them in together into an ecosystem and helping them then create insights from them.
Or drilling way down into the company. This is a flagship product of yours, my understanding, but I can't pronounce it. It's a pump, F-L-Y-G-T.
If you're sitting in Stockholm, Sweden, it's flicked,
Flicked.
and if you're in the U.S., it's flight.
Flight. Wait, you pronounce the G?
Yeah, flight.
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 F.
Like flight, like I'm taking a flight.
So the G silent?
Yes.
F-L-G-T, but
Yes.
like flight. Okay.
Yes.
What a flight, and this is a flagship product,
Yes.
right? What do flight pumps do?
They're incredible pumps. They last a long, long time, and in essence, they move wastewater. Think about a collection system. You've got a community around. You've got wastewater sewer. We're pumping that water to lift stations, and then ultimately to a treatment plant, and then we're pumping that water in the treatment plant through the treatment process. So that's what we do.
And so when you're building a new community, say out in Nevada,
Right.
right, a new planned community, and you're building a water system in
Yes.
there, you're working with the municipality,
Yes.
is that a new business for you then?
Absolutely.
That would be like they're
Yes.
buying your stuff.
Yes, that would, well, yeah, that would be kind of a greenfield new facility, or there's a lot of brownfield retrofit that we do as well.
Right, right.
We're actually, on that topic, India, 95+% of their wastewater goes out into waterways. And we're part of a large-scale program right now in Mumbai. There's 7 large treatment plants going in there. We have 3 of them that we're putting all of our equipment in, and very proud of that.
Shifting gears a little bit, you guys are a public company, obviously, a market cap about $34 billion. The stock had lagged the market for a time. You became CEO 2 years ago, and now I've seen the stock's been catching back up and exceeding the market. I know that's all about you, Matthew.
It's a team sport.
But what's the marketplace now recognizing in Xylem that they hadn't previously, or how are you executing differently, maybe?
Yeah, I think strategically, for me, it's all grounded in voice of stakeholder. And when I started taking on the role, and having been at the company a few years before I became CEO, had a good sense for what it was, but really listening to the voice of stakeholder. And our customers would say, hey, we love your solutions, we love your platform, you got to make it easier to do business with us. You can be a bit complex and hard to do business with. Our colleagues would say, love the purpose of the company. It's what attracted us here, it's what retains us in the company, but you got to make my job easier. Where, for example, a delegation of authority could take 25 signatories. Now it's 3. Investors would say, hey, love your brands, love your assets, but you've been kind of average operator. So you kind of put that into a blender, and that's really informed our strategy. I call it a 3-act play. The first act is really self-help. It's about transforming our operating model, and that's culture. That's around our systems and processes and our structure. We were highly matricized, and now we're 4 segments, 16 divisions, accountability and empowerment. The second phase is really taking that simplicity we've created and then leveraging that to build a growth engine. And then third, it's about long-term competitiveness. Now, this doesn't mean they happen in series, they happen together. There's a little bit of a Venn diagram if you laid them out. But the last one, we've got a healthy balance sheet. We want to continue to optimize our portfolio and invest in our core business. So those are the 3 areas we're focused. We've worked hard the past 2 years on this first phase of the journey, our operating model. You see a lot of margin improvement from that first phase, but it's really setting you up over the long term to kind of get the growth that you need from that simplicity.
On the other hand, I noticed that just over the past few days, a couple of analysts or 3 analysts have lowered their price target. What is that about?
I don't know. They probably are speculating around municipal spends for next year and things of that nature is probably what I would guess.
What is it that Wall Street really looks for in terms of metrics, Matthew? What are the most important levers that they...
Well, I think the first thing is they need to understand your story. And I think we've got a compelling story in terms of what we're focused on. I think the street loves our self-help story. We had been a bottom quartile player in EBITDA margin performance. And we've really, over the past 2 to 3 years, taken that up 300 to 400 basis points. I think they look at secular trends of the business. If you look at water scarcity, you look at water quality, affordability of water, and some of those trends around water, they like our position in the market. And they like our balance sheet. I think we've got lots of opportunity to continue to build out the portfolio. We've got a healthy M&A pipeline, and and we'll continue to deploy capital to get to kind of a mid-teens EPS growth each year.
Yeah, I saw you made a pretty big acquisition fairly recently, right?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we acquired an industrial water service company called Evoqua out of Pittsburgh.
Right. Speaking of Pittsburgh or anywhere else in the United States, where are the biggest places where your employees work, biggest sort of operations?
I would say our centers of gravity are Charlotte, Raleigh, Pittsburgh, Chicago. Those are some of our bigger hubs in the U.S. In Europe, it's Stockholm, Sweden. It's Montecchio, Italy, places like that. And then in Asia, Singapore is a big location, in parts of India, Bangalore, and places like that.
And headquarters is in Washington, D.C. Why is that? Is that
DC.
close to the regulatory framework?
Yeah, there's a lot, believe it or not, a lot of the industry convenes on D.C. And our headquarters there is actually pretty unique. We call it the reservoir. Only about a quarter of the building is dedicated to Xylem. The other 3/4, we let the water industry convene there. We just ask that they collaborate and work together. So when they come to DC, they have a space to work. It's water themed. We have people from the Anacostia River Keepers. We're on the Anacostia River on Water Street, serendipitous, to the Aspen Institute. So we have all points in between in terms of folks that convene to talk about all the issues around water.
You got Matthew Damon and water.org over there?
Yes. Well,
He's
yeah.
come in?
No, I don't think he's been to our office yet, but we're definitely plugged in with
Open invitation, though?
Gary. Open invitation
With Gary, right.
with Gary and Matt. Gary's been there.
And want to shift gears and ask you a little bit
Yeah.
about you. You have an unusual background. You played football
I
at
did.
the University of Alabama. That's for real football.
That's for real football. I feel it every day.
And you were there in the early 1990s. I looked at the whole thing. Coach Gene Stallings won a national championship.
Yes.
1992, the only national championship between Bear Bryant and Nick Saban.
You're right.
In the 30 years. And I saw you had this one pretty incredible play where you downed a punt.
Yeah.
What was that, against Ole Miss?
Against Ole Miss, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great clip. And then you went on to get an MBA at Northeastern. I don't think there's too many people who've done that combination of things. And then you become a CEO of a water company. How did that all happen, Matthew?
That's a great question. I think I've always had a passion to be a leader, whether it was in sports or in business. And I think my father was a big inspiration for that. He was very involved in our local community. He was president of the...
Where was that, by the way?
That was in Gadsden, Alabama, right outside of Birmingham. Yeah. And, he was involved in Curcio. He was involved in prison ministry. He was involved in being president of Concert Association. He was very philanthropic minded, very involved in the church, being a leader in the church. So I observed him over the years and his leadership approach and his servant leadership. And I think that really inspired me to be that kind of a leader.
And final question, why should investors either hold the stock if they already own it or buy the stock? What is the opportunity for Xylem shareholders going forward?
Yeah, well, I think the sky's the limit. I think, look, there's secular trends that line up there, but it's about execution. And I am big on alignment in leadership and culture. And those three things, for me, everything else is window dressing. Strategy, the what you're going to do and the why you do it. The how is really important, and that's about leadership and it's about alignment. And so we're building an aligned leadership team. We've got an incredible executive leadership team. We've got a great top 150, and we just launched something called a leadership accelerator, where we're putting our top 150 through that. And we looked at what are the attributes that leaders need to have in the next decade or beyond. And that's being a self-propelled continuous learner. That is about being a talent builder, not having talent follow you, but building talent. I tell people I spend 50% of my time on talent. And then the third is about being a bold and resilient leader. So we're putting our top 150 through, we have about 12 cohorts. I'm part of a cohort, and we're going through a learning journey. We're doing it for 18 months, 6 months on each one of those attributes. So, if you're investing in Xylem, it's about leadership and culture. And those things are really important to execution.
And roll tide.
And roll tide.
Matthew Pine, CEO of Xylem, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
This is at Barrons. I'm Andy Serwer. We'll catch you next time.